aka Ampu, aka the chosen few, aka the real bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die. Hotel, cheers to that. Today we're going to be talking about the my son crazy. Today we're going to be talking about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, play one. You guys know how I like to do it. I enjoy not necessarily giving book reviews, but going through books with my online viewers. So today we're going to be going through one of my most favorite books to actually go through and break down. And since it's so long, we're going to only be dealing with played one. We're going to try to deal with played one today, and at a later date, I may go into play two, play three, play four. One of the reasons why I wanted to go into the Egyptian Book of the Dead is basically because I personally feel like there's a lot about this book that individuals don't know, and um, Egypt is becoming more and more a topic of conversation here. And so a lot of people are probably hearing about the Egyptian Book of the Dead more and more, but they may not be familiar with what it says or what it actually means. Now, I'll be honest, I'm no expert, right? I'm no expert in the full breakdown of everything that is talking about. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to read over it with you guys and give some type of explanation based on my understanding. So those of you who are interested in it and who have ever cracked it open and are completely unaware of what it's actually talking about, you can start getting a better understanding of it as well. Now, the thing that I found out, one of the reasons why it's so hard to understand is there's a lot of information that you have to be aware of before you can, because it was written in a from a whole nother culture that we know nothing about. So a lot of the names of the individuals involved, we're totally ignorant of who those people are, who those beings are. A lot of the place names, the names of the area, you're not going to hear things like United States, China, Egypt, Cairo, right? You're not going to hear words like that. And so when you hear the names of places, your mind isn't going to be able to comprehend what it's talking about unless you've already learned something about it. So it's not one of those books that you can just pick up totally ignorant of Egypt and the culture of Egypt and the history of Egypt and the gods or the Neteru of Egypt and understand. I remember the first time I tried to read it, I was totally lost. Totally lost. So I can imagine that there are other people out there just like me. Um, one of the one of the biggest misconceptions about it that I want to start off talking about is the thought that the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or was more properly called the Perdem Heru, the Book of Coming Forth by Day, is a lot of people try to say that it is the Egyptian Bible. That's not that's not accurate at all. It's not the Egyptian Bible, and you're going to get yourself into a lot of problems if you try to read it as if it's the Egyptian Bible. You're coming into it wrong from the beginning, and so you're going to be lost. So, what I want to do first is I want to go to a couple of sources. We're going to get a little background information about the Book of the Dead, the Perdem Heru, some specifics about the one that I'm going to be reading, and then we're going to actually read it. So, let's do this here first. Then we're going to actually. All right. So, and I know y'all hear that, but I'm trying to make sure. Okay. I'm just checking my screen share. Okay. Testing the sound. All right, there we go. So Look at this. This is ancient Egyptian, well, ancient.eu/Egyptian Book of the Dead. You see the source, the URL up there in the search bar if you want to read this. And we're just going to read this first paragraph so we can get some kind of context into what we're talking about. See what it says, Egyptian Book of the Dead. Let's read this together. It says, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is a collection of spells which enable the soul of the deceased to navigate the afterlife. The famous title was given the work by Western scholars. The actual title would translate as the Book of Coming Forth by Day or Spells for Going Forth by Day. And a more apt translation to English would be the Egyptian Book of Life. Although the work is often referred to as the ancient Egyptian Bible, it is no such thing. Although the two works share the similarity of being ancient compilations of text written at different times, eventually gathered together in book form. The Book of the Dead was never codified, and no two copies of the work are exactly the same. They were created specifically for each individual who could afford to purchase one as a kind of manual to help them after death. Egyptologist Geraldine Pinch explains, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is a term coined in the 19th century CE for a body of text known to the ancient Egyptians as the spells for going forth by day. After the Book of the Dead was first translated by Egyptologists, it gained a place in the popular imagination as the Bible of the ancient Egyptians. The comparison is very inappropriate. The Book of the Dead was not the central holy book of Egyptian religion. It was just one of a series of manuals composed to assist the spirits of the elite dead to achieve and maintain a full afterlife. So, a couple of the key takeaways from that immediately is what I just told you guys. It is not the Egyptian Bible. Also, another thing that we want to highlight is it says that no two copies of the work are exactly the same. Okay, that's interesting and that's important. You have to wrap your mind around that. So whenever you come into contact with a book that's labeled as the Book of the Dead or the Egyptian Book of the Dead or the Coming Forth by Day, whatever it may be named, first you have to understand that it was constructed specifically for that individual. Now, several copies of the Egyptian Book of the Dead may contain a lot of the same chapters in them, right? They may contain a lot of what these scholars are calling spells. It may contain the same ones in there, but there will be variations. Okay, you have to understand that. A lot of times when we're raised in a Christian environment, how we are, and we have a religious understanding of the Bible, individuals talk about translating the Bible or interpreting the Bible or writing different versions of the Bible, but they're really taking one specific text and they're saying it, writing it in another language, or they're deciphering those words a different way. When you're talking about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, you're not talking about one specific work that was copied from this person to the next person to the next person to the next person. Several portions within it may be similar, or even certain chapters may be almost exact to another version of it, but each individual Book of the Dead was specifically written for a specific person. That's the first thing that you have to understand, right? That's the first thing you have to understand. So, which one am I going to be reading today? Since there can be multiple versions of it. The most common one is this one, and it's always that glare, you know what I mean, from my life. But this is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Papyrus of Ani, by E.A. Wallace Budge. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, if you go to a bookstore or if you go to a library and you get a copy of the Book of the Dead, this is going to be the one that you're getting, right? So understand that this is not the only one. This is not the oldest one. This is perhaps the most well preserved and complete copy that we have, and it's just the most famous. So without any further ado, let's go into the actual text itself. Let's read it and let's see if we can't get some kind of understanding about what it actually is. Let's go here. Okay, so slide. All right. So y'all see the picture. That's the actual one that I have. I took that picture myself. This is the one that we're going to be reading. So it says, this is basically like in the preface of the actual book itself. The Papyrus of Ani, which was acquired by the trustees of the British Museum in the year 1888, is the largest, the most perfect, the best preserved, and the best illuminated of all the papyri, which date from the second half of the 18th dynasty, about 1500 to 1400 BC. Its rare vignettes and hymns and chapters and its descriptive and introductory rubrics render it of unique importance for the study of the Book of the Dead, and it takes a high place among the authoritative text of the Theban version of that remarkable work. Although it contains less than one half of the chapters which are commonly assigned to that version, we may conclude that Ani's exalted official position as Chancellor of the ecclesiastical revenues and endowments of Abydos and Thebes would have ensured a selection of such chapters as would suffice for his spiritual welfare in the future life. So you see where it says, although it contains less than one half of the chapters which are commonly assigned to that version, they're telling you right out the gate that there are versions with more chapters in it than the Papyrus of Ani, right? And so he goes on to say, we may therefore regard the Papyrus of Ani, or Ani, I may pronounce it various ways as I'm reading. We may therefore regard the Papyrus of Ani as typical of the funeral book in vogue among the Theban nobles of his time, right? So then they're saying that since Ani was so important, right, a man of his stature in Egyptian society, if he had a version of the Book of the Dead that was placed inside of his tomb with him that did not have as many chapters as other versions of the Book of the Dead from that time and from that region, is not necessarily because he could not he was not important enough to have the relevant chapters, or he didn't have enough money to purchase a writing of the more relevant chapters. Is basically saying that what he has in his is quite possibly the most significant chapters, and the chapter that other individuals added in their copies of the Book of the Dead that was found in their tombs is probably just, they had their personal prerogative. They chose to add those for their own personal reason, which they had every right to do, seeing as how Egyptian religion was not codified. An individual did have certain amounts of leeway. Now, what you're looking at right here, you see what it says, judgment scene of Ani. This is, when people talk about the judgment scene in ancient Egypt, this is the primary one that you are going to see. Now, this judgment scene comes from the Papyrus of Ani, okay? And if you look at the standing figure to the left, hold on, let me get my laser pointer. All right, this figure right here, you see my laser pointer? Wearing white, standing up, kind of kneeling over, that is Ani, okay? That is how he is depicted. That is what he looked like. And the individual next to him, that is his wife, his deceased wife. She passed away before he did. Okay, and so you already see implicit in this judgment scene, there is some kind of concept of in the afterlife, individual seeing their loved ones. So we're not going to actually be breaking down the judgment scene, but I thought that was interesting, and I wanted you to see what Andy actually looked like. So this is the Book of the Dead for this individual. Okay, moving right along. So this is page one, plate one, the Book of the Dead. And I like this version because it gives you the English next to the metal or the hieroglyphs, so you can kind of examine it for yourself. And if you know the language, which I don't, you can catch any mistakes in translations that Budge may have made. So we're going to start at the first sentence. We're going to read the first sentence, and we're going to try to break this down so you can understand what it's talking about. Okay, it says, adoration of Ra when riseth he in horizon, eastern of heaven. So you see that right off the bat, their sentence structure is different from the typical English sentence structure. Their adjectives, verbs, and adverbs are in different places. So to an English speaker, we will probably want to say something like adoration of Ra when he riseth in the horizon on the eastern of heaven, or in the eastern of heaven. And so the eastern of heaven is in the west, is basically in the east, right? And so what they're talking about is, see this adoration of Ra. And you see this image right above adoration. It's this, you see the man with his hands up as if he's giving some type of praise, worship, or adoration is how it's translated of Ra. Now, Ra represents the sun, but I do know enough about the language as when you see this, you see what my pointer at. When you see that determinative of that seated figure with the beard, you're talking about the god. Okay, if that wasn't there and it was just like the sun symbol, right? You'd just be talking about the physical sun itself. But since you have that figure right there, that determinative, that lets you know that the word is talking about the God. So it's saying adoration of Ra, right? Adoration of the sun god, the Neteru Ra, when he riseth in the horizon in the eastern of heaven. So we all know that the sun rises from in the east and it sets in the west. Okay, and in Egyptian cosmology, in Egyptian theological or religious thought, um, Ra would sail the skies in his boat on his throne with the actual sun. When you see the sun rising in the east and going through the sky and setting in the west, what you are actually seeing on a spiritual level is Ra, the sun god Ra, on his boat, traversing the heavens, okay, and going from the east to the west. Now the west is like the abode of the blessed, or that's the heavens. When an individual dies, they want their spirits to make it to the west. So how would an individual get from point A to point B? Point A being where they are, where they are actually buried at, where they lived and died at, and where they are buried at, to the actual west. Their spirits didn't just magically float to the west. What they would have to do is they would have to, when Ra came up in the east, when Ra rose in the east in the morning at dawn on his boat, the spirit of the deceased would ascend. It would float up into the sky. And if everything went according to plan, this is what you would hope for, because they was hoping for eternal life. They would ascend to the boat of Ra, and they would ride on Ra's boat with him as he traversed the heavens going to the west. So they talking about adorations of Ra when he riseth in the horizon in the eastern of heaven, because they are giving praise to the sun god Ra as he rises in the east with the physical sun. Okay, and for Annie, that is his ticket to the west. Okay, so it goes on to say, "Behold, Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of the gods all, Annie." So if we were looking at that in English, it would probably, we would probably say something like, "Behold, Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of all the gods I need." Now, when an individual died, right? When an individual died, their ultimate hope was to become one with Osiris or Asar. Okay, Asar is the king, the ancient king of Egypt, who died and who was resurrected to be the ruler of the underworld and the afterlife. And individuals, human beings who wish to receive an afterlife, in the symbolic way to say that is to become a Sar in the afterlife. To become a Sar in the afterlife is to be judged righteous, holy, and pure, and be allowed to actually resurrect into the afterlife, and not simply just stay dead, not simply just be punished, or not simply just cease to exist. So when it's saying "Behold Osiris" here, this is Ani. Ani. The book is written from the perspective that Ani has gained eternal life. Let's understand that from the jump. So Ani is already expected to have attained eternal life. That is kind of what this book is saying, right? So it's saying, "Behold, Asar or Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of all the gods Ani." All right. So we know something about Ani right there. He is the scribe of the holy offerings. Now, everybody who dies is not the scribe of the holy offerings of all the gods. This implies a job title that he had in life. So if you were something else, then that particular job title would no doubt be expressed here. And you see how it says, "Behold, Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of all the gods I need." This is immediately after it's saying adorations of Ra when he rises in the horizon in the eastern of heaven. So the picture is Ani has dead, Ani has died, right? And Ani wants eternal life in the abode of the blessed in the west. Okay. And so as Ra rises in the east at dawn, this is when Ani has his ability to resurrect and meet Ra. So as he resurrects, he gives adorations to Ra as Ra is rising at the dawn, right? And they are saying, "Behold," telling Ra to behold our Osiris Ani, and they're calling him Osiris, so Ra will understand that he is one deserving of eternal life. And they're telling Ra, "Behold, Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of all the gods Ani." Okay, and so it goes on to say, "Saith he, homage to thee, who hast come as Kephara." Kephara as the creator of the gods. So saith he, it saith Ani to Ra. We have Ra coming, rising in the east, right? Ani has resurrected after death. He has resurrected at dawn to see Ra rising in the east. And then the proclamation, "Behold," talking to Ra, "Behold, Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of all the gods I need, saith he." And so this is implying Ani saying to Ra on his boat, okay, because he wants to get on this boat so he can go to the west, but he has to pay his homage. "Saith he, homage to thee, who has come as Kephara." Now, I want you to understand something. What the Egyptians did a lot. One of the reasons why you see so many different names of God, so many different names of the Netter, so many different names of the Neteru, because in certain instances, one Neteru could have 10 different names. Okay, now Ra is one of those. When you see the name Kepara in this particular instance, okay, that is talking about the rising sun. When Ra rises in the morning, when he is rising at dawn, he is known as Kepara. At noonday, when Ra is directly over the sky, he is known by another name. And in the evening, when the sun is setting, Ra is then known by another name. So he says, homage to thee who has come as Kepara, Ra in the morning, Kepara as the creator of the gods. And so he is saying that Ra, Amun Ra, is the creator of the gods, of the Neteru. Thou risest, thou shinest, making bright thy mother, crowned as king of the gods, doeth to thee, mother Nut, with her hands the act of worship. So we see right here, thou risest, thou shinest. Again, references to the sun rising at dawn. Hold on just a second. Okay, and then he says, making bright thy mother. So hold on, wait a minute. What are they talking about here? Making bright thy mother, thy mother. So in Egyptian cosmology, right, what he is talking about is thy mother is the heavens, is new. Okay, you see pictures of new, the heavens giving birth to the sun every single morning. So in one conceptualization, the heavens, Nut, is the mother of Ra. So it says, making bright thy mother. That is an allusion to the sun rising at dawn. Again, follow the logic, because it's dark at night. And as the sun rises, get what happens to the sky? The sky is made bright. So thou risest, thou shinest, making bright thy mother, crowned as king of the gods. So Ra has been crowned as king of the gods, and you can see how that took place in other pieces of Egyptian literature. Do it to thee, mother Nut, with her hands the act of worship. So basically, what they're saying is, do it to thee, do it to Ra, mother Nut, with her hands the act of worship. So Ra's mother Nut does to him the act of worship with her two hands. So it's saying that even his mother Nut, the heavens, worships Ra, because Ra has been crowned as king of the gods. Now, this is all I need, still talking to Ra, right? He says, receiveth thee, my Nut, with content, embraces the Mayat at the double season. So, my Nut is another reference to where he wants to go in the West. So it's saying like, receiveth thee my Nut with content, the realm in the west that I is trying to get to, and embraceth thee Mayat. Mayat is truth, justice, balance, harmony, reciprocity, justice, righteousness, order, the right way. Okay, Mayat embraces Ra, because Ra is the king of the gods, and he is all right, all might, and all powerful at the double season. Okay, may he give splendor and power together with triumph and a coming forth as a soul living to see Horus on the double horizon, to the Ka of Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant before Osiris. So it's a lot going on there. Basically, and he is now he, after he's gave homage to Ra by announcing that he is the creator of the gods. He is making his mother bright. He is crowned as the king of the gods. Even Nut, his mother, does the act of worship to him with her two hands. The area Manu receives him with content. Maya embraceth him. He is saying all of these things to Ra, to let Ra know that he honors Ra. Okay, and so now he's saying, may he give splendor, May Ra give splendor to Ani and power to Ani, together with triumph over death to Ani, and a coming forth as a soul, coming forth. Remember, this is the book of the dead, the coming forth by day. So he is asking Ra to assist him in coming forth as a soul living, as a living soul. He's died, but he wants to live again. And in order to be resurrected, this is what he has to go through. And coming forth as a soul living, or as a living soul, to see horrors on the double horizon, to the Ka of Asar, the scribe Ani. The Ka is the spirit, to the spirit of Asar, the scribe Ani, triumphant before Asar or Osiris. Okay, saith he. Now let's just look back. Now after I explain all that, I want to read this over again, and I want y'all to see the picture that's going on. The basic picture that's going on is the sun is rising at dawn. At dawn is when the individual resurrects. So when the sun rises at dawn, the individual is resurrecting. He is paying homage to the sun, right? And announcing how great it is, and he is petitioning Ra to allow him to get on his boat so he can live forever as a living soul, no longer in his flesh, and go to the west, right? Adoration of Ra, when riseth he in horizon eastern of heaven. Behold Osiris, the scribe of the holy offerings of the gods all, Ani. Saith he, homage to thee, who has come as Kephara as the creator of the gods. Thou shinest, thou risest, thou shinest, making bright thy mother, crowned as king of the gods. Do it to thee, mother Nu, with her two hands the act of worship. Receiveth thee, Manu, with content. Embraceth thee, Mayat, at the double season. May he give splendor and power, together with triumph, and a coming forth as a soul, living to see Horus on the double horizon, to the Ka of Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant before Osiris. And let's go on. Saith he, hail gods all of the soul temple, ye weighers of heaven and earth, in the balance, givers of food and abundance of meat. So saith he, hail all of the gods of the soul temple, ye weighers of heaven and earth. So the gods of the soul temple are the weighers of heaven and earth in balance, givers of food and abundance of meat. So now he is speaking to all of the gods, or all of the Neteru of the soul temple, who weighs heaven and earth in the balance, and givers of food and abundance of meat. So he is announcing, right? And he's saying hail, and he's paying homage to all of the Neteru who are responsible for the things that are taking place in both heaven and on earth. Ultimately, the gods, or the Neteru, are in charge. Okay, and I have to say here that I'm not 100% sure, right? But I do know in the mythology, um, more than just Ra traverses on his boat. Other Neteru, they travel on his boat with him through the heavens, right? They can go back and forth from Ra's boat to Earth and interact with humans. Okay. And so in my mind, at this point, I imagine after Ani has said all that he has to say, he has been allowed to come to this boat, or he has been allowed to go somewhere where all of the Neteru are. Now, this may be he made it onto the boat, and now Ra is taking him to where he has to be judged, because we're going to see further on in here when he's actually being judged. So he may have gotten onto the boat, and there's other deities on the boat, and so he's paying his respects to those deities as well, while he's on his way to actually get his heart judged to validate if he's going to make it into eternal life, quote unquote heaven as well. So it says, Hail Tatunin, one, maker of mankind, and of the substance of the gods, of the south, north, west, and east. Ascribe praise to Ra, the Lord of heaven, the Prince, life, strength, health, creator of the gods. So this is just more honor and respect due unto Ra. Adore ye him in his presence, beautiful in his rising, in the Atet boat. So here we have an actual reference to the boat that I've been telling you guys about. So adore ye him, Ra, in his presence, beautiful in his rising, in the Atet boat. Shall worship thee the beings of the heights, shall worship thee the beings of the depths. So now we're seeing that the beings of the heights and the beings of the depths shall worship Ra. So he's basically saying everybody, every being, no matter how high, no matter how low, every being or every creature in creation shall worship Ra. Okay? Now, write for thee thought and Mayat day every day. And so this right here, again, I'm not 100% sure exactly what he's talking about writing every day, but thought is Tahuti or Dahuti. It's the ibis-headed deity of ancient Egypt, right? And so we do know that what it's saying thought here, but Tahuti, Dahuti, thought, he is the scribe of the gods. So he literally records everything. He records everything that happens with the gods. He records everything that happens with men and women. Even you in your individual life. In Egyptian conceptualization of religion and spirituality, everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you think, everything that you feel, right, is being documented in a book by thought, by Tahuti, by Dahuti. And this is happening for every single person on the planet and even for the Neteru. So it could be a plethora of different things that he's talking about. He wants him to document. But I see how it says, write for thee thought and Mayat day every day. It could just be that he's talking about, he documents everything that goes on every single day, right? So it goes on to say, thine enemy is given to the fire, the evil one hath fallen, his arms are bound, removed hath Ra his legs, the sons of impotent revolt, never again shall they rise up. So what are they talking about there? Thine enemy is given to the fire, the evil one hath fallen, his arms are bound. Basically what they're saying is every night when the sun sets and it gets dark, what the Egyptians describe is that Ra then has to battle his enemies, right? Those who do not wish to be subjected to him. And so he battles his enemies every night and he rises every morning victorious. So it's almost a conceptualization of a constant fight or a constant struggle between light and dark, good and evil, Mayat and Isfet, righteousness and unrighteousness. Okay, it's always this constant struggle, and this constant struggle can also be personified in the Egyptian mind with the rising and setting of the sun. When the sun sets, Ra must battle his enemies throughout the night to rise in the morning as triumphant over his enemies. So thine enemy is given to the fire, the evil one hath fallen, his arms are bound, Removed hath Ra his legs. The sons of impotent revolt, never again shall they rise up. So again, remember, we were talking about when Ra is coming up in the morning at dawn, going through the sky, and Ani trying to get on this boat so he can be judged pure and he can actually make it to the west. So before Ra rose at dawn, he defeated his enemies at night. And there is more literature on this as well. That's another reason why understanding the Egyptian Book of the Dead is kind of hard if you haven't read any of the text or if you haven't read any commentary on the text, because a lot of these things and stories that I'm able to fill in, I'm only able to fill them in because I've read a lot of other texts as well, so I can make out what they're talking about in a lot of instances. So it goes on to say, the house of the prince is in festival. The sound of those that rejoice is in the dwelling mighty. So the house of the prince is in festival. The sound of those that rejoice is in the mighty dwelling. Okay, and so you see this festival and this rejoicing, basically because Ra rose in the morning, indicating that he defeated his enemies. The gods are rejoicing when they see Ra in his rising. Again, they're rejoicing because he is victorious. The gods are rejoicing when they see Ra in his rising. His beams flood with light the countries. Advanceth the majesty of this God venerable. He arriveth at the land of Manu. He illumineth the earth at his birth every day. Just look at that right there. He illumineth the earth at his birth every day. Remember, that's why they call Nut his mother, because another symbolic idea is that he is born every morning from his mother Nut. So that's why they're saying he illuminated the earth at his birth. At his birth is his rising, the rising of the sun. It's a multi-layered text. He arrived at his region of yesterday, meaning this is a cycle. He goes through this cycle day after day after day. Mayest thou be at peace with me. May I see thy beauty. May I advance upon the earth. May I smite the ass. May I crush the evil one. May I destroy Apep at his moment. Um, y'all give me just 1 second. Okay, yeah, right there. Okay. May I advance. Okay. May thou be at peace with me. Now remember, Ani has died and Ani has resurrected, right? But Ani is trying to resurrect unto eternal life, not to damnation, basically. And so he has announced all of these things because you have to pay homage, right? You have to pay the homage. If you were to go into the presence of a king right here on earth, right? If the king was to come by your house, you're gonna clean up. You're gonna put on your best suit. When you see him, they're gonna announce him. Here comes the king of the land who does this and who does that, who has conquered his enemies. And you're gonna mention all of these different accolades. So Ra is the ultimate king. He's the ultimate God. And so Ani needs him in order to get eternal life. And so he's giving him all of these accolades and he's saying all of these things to him. And now he's telling Ra, after he's went through all of this diatribe, mayest thou be at peace with me, great Ra. May I see thy beauties. Allow me on your boat. May I advance upon the earth. Right? Now he's already dead. So if he's saying, may I advance upon the earth, he's talking about, can he ride in the boat with Ra to the west? May I smite the ass. Now that is probably, we have some type of, we have slang where we say stuff and you have to actually be in the culture to understand it. So may I smite the ass actually must have meant something to that particular culture that we have kind of lost today. Y'all give me just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Let me try to get this back up. Alrighty then. Okay, so what were we? Yeah, may I crush the evil one. Okay, may I destroy Apep at his moment. Now, Apep is this large serpent creature that Ra fights every night. May I destroy Apep at his moment. May I see, excuse me, may I see, uh, did I miss some? I'm sorry. Give me just a second, folks. Uh, hold on, hold on. I think all right. Let me stop screen sharing for just a second. Uh, I think I yeah, I went from page 3 to page 5. I could tell from how I was reading it. Let me go get page 4. 1, 2, 3. Hmm. But from what y'all can see so far, there there are several things that that it would behoove you to understand about the culture, that it'll behoove you to understand about their cosmology, their ideas about things. You have to know who some of these actual deities are, what they represent, to actually un- understand it. Right? It won't even like I say, it won't make sense. It won't make sense without some type of with some type of reference points. Okay, I got that in, so I'm sorry about that. We're gonna go right back into it. Okay, there we go. Let's get that screen share on. So, slideshow going. Bam. So here we go. So, may I destroy a pep at his moment. May I see the obtuse fish at his season of revolution or coming into existence, and the ant fish. Something is missing its, and the ant boat in its pool. May I see Horus as guardian of the rudder with thought and my yacht at his two sides. May I grasp the bows of the Sektet boat and the stern of the Atet boat. So obviously, some of this you would have to actually know the culture or be more versed in the Egyptian Book of the Dead than I am. I'm not sure why he wants to see these particular fish. I'm not sure what they actually represent. But we do see how he says may see Horus or Heru. Heru is the son of Osiris. Osiris is a star, so Horus is the son of Osiris. Heru is the son of Asar, same individuals, as guardian of the rudder with thought and Mayat at his two sides. Okay, at the two sides of Heru. May I grasp the bows of the Sektet boat and the stern of the Atet boat. So he's alluding to actually being on this boat with Ra, with Heru, with Thot, with Mayat, several of the gods, the Neteru, like we saw earlier. So he goes on to say, may he grant a view of the disk and a sight of the moon god without ceasing every day, and the coming forth of my soul to walk about every place it pleaseth. May be proclaimed my name when it is found upon the board for offering things. May there be placed for me offerings of food in my presence, like the followers of Horus. May be made for me a seat in the boat On the day of the going forth of the god, may I be received into the presence of Osiris in the land of triumph to the Ka of Osiris Ani. Now, this is only play one. I'm not going to go into play two on here. I could go into play two, play three, play four. I don't want to go into those different various plays because I want to save some for another video. But it's clear what we see right there. Let me get out of here and get back to you guys. Okay, let's stop sharing the screen. So from play one, any individual who wants to get a hold of this book and they want to read it and they want to try to get some kind of understanding of it, you can see the progression of the book. In Egyptian thought, when an individual died, they believed in an afterlife. So they wanted to be resurrected unto the afterlife and live for all eternity. But they had to go through a process to get there. Now, as you're going to see in later plays, as we deal with them, it wasn't enough to get admitted to the boat of Ra. Because when you go to the boat of Ra, you have to go to actually be judged. Your heart has to be weighed against the feather of my eye, the feather of truth, justice, righteousness, honor, balance, reciprocity, etc., etc. So in order for all of this to take place, there had to be a certain steps that had to be taken, right? So we see how the book starts off. It starts off as, let's say, like, I died, right? Something bad happens, I die. So in the Egyptian mind, an individual, if they were going to resurrect unto eternal life, this would happen at dawn. Okay? This would happen at dawn. If I was to die right now in the middle of the night, I'm not going anywhere. I'm probably battling whatever I'm battling, or who knows. We're not going to go on all of that. Let's talk about the plate. But at dawn, when the sun rises, I have my opportunity to pay my adoration and homage to Ra, beseech Ra and the other Neteru to allow me to get on the boat, right? Once on the boat, I am able to travel with Ra. Now I have some type of mobility. I can travel. I can go to the place where my heart will actually be weighed and I will be judged. And if I am judged righteous, if I am judged worthy, then I will make it to the west, to the abode of the blessed, to heaven, to whatever the field of reeds, whatever you want to call it. I am going to make it to that place of rest. So that is what play one is actually dealing with. Play one is actually dealing with immediately after death at dawn, an individual rising from the dead and beseeching Ra on his boat to allow him on the boat so he can go forth to be judged, and from being judged, go on to actually living in heaven. Now, I know that it's virtually impossible to understand that without context. There is a lot of other things that you have to know about ancient Egypt before any of that would even make sense. So I hope some of my breakdown made sense to you guys. Before I go, as always, you guys, y'all know that I'm an author. So I ask for all of you guys support my work, support what I have going on, support what I'm doing. My most recent book is Big Game Hunting. Okay, this is a nonfiction novel, right? Nonfiction novel, and it's autobiographical. Okay, it's autobiographical, and it's about how me and my brother Joshua Daniels, we took on the corruption within our local police department and corruption within our local city officials, and we went on what I like to call big game hunting, and we attempted to get the corrupt individuals fired, get them taken away from their jobs, et cetera, and to basically clean everything up. Now, this story, I'm telling you, is something like you never read before. I'm going to read you guys the synopsis from the back of Big Game Hunting. A lot of people make claims of police corruption, but they rarely ever uncover the necessary documents to irrefutably prove their claims. Although they may be correct, the lack of physical evidence and the inability to present the information in a coherent narrative leaves the accused cops enough wiggle room to hide behind terms like slander, defamation of character, and conspiracy theory. Well, dear reader, those days are over. This work, Big Game Hunting, is clear proof of corruption within the Texas City Police Department. Matthew Daniels lays out his case using eyewitness testimony, newspaper articles, emails, court records, arrest records, and testimony from the Texas City police officers themselves, which prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was corruption within the Texas City Police Department that was not only sanctioned by the administration but covered up as well. Matthew Daniels eloquently documents the war that he waged along with his brother Joshua Daniels against the Texas City Police Department. And he details how the two of them went big game hunting and mounted the heads of several prominent people on their wall. Reader, this work is explosive. Matthew Daniels shows that the same Texas City police officers who were charged with arresting criminals were the worst criminals around. This is definitely a must read. And I'm going to tell you guys something. You have never read a book quite like this. Never. Not fiction, not non-fiction, never. And it's all real. It's all real. And I prove everything I say with the court records, the emails, the court documents, right? I bag up everything that I say. And this was actually my life. I'm not just a guy who gets on YouTube and make videos, right? I'm actually active in my community. Now, I may not be the most active person in the world, because there's enough work to go around. There's plenty of work to go around, but I put in work. And my community knows me for putting in work. And I go head to head with the corrupt officers, corrupt city officials, corrupt health districts. I put in work, and I'm not just trying to toot my own horn, but if you don't believe me, get the book Big Game Hunting, and you'll see firsthand account of some of the work that I've put in. It's available in ebook form or paperback form. It's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, and it's also available on my website, www.therealbookworm.com. I also have an urban fiction novel called Thicker Than Water, right? There we go. Thicker Than Water by Matthew Daniels. And this is over 400 pages, right? This is over 400 pages. Now, this is not a nonfiction. This is an urban fiction novel. And it's basically about how a veteran detective and a rookie cop are trying to hunt down two hitmen killers, and they're trying to stop a gang war that has erupted on the streets of Texas City, Texas. And so they're in like a race against the clock to figure out who is doing all of these murders and why. And the gang war is between the Dramaside Hooligans and the South Lane Villains. They are like the two top gang organizations in Texas City, and they did have a truce for several years, and so the officers are confused about why the truce has been broken, who broke the truce, why are all of these murders all of a sudden happening, who is committing all of these murders, and they're trying to figure all of this out and trying to bring peace back to the streets of Texas City before it's too late. Now, my first novel that I ever released is Suicide Note. Now, Suicide Note is another urban fiction novel set in Dickinson, Texas, and it's basically about a guy named A.B. who has a best friend named Steele. Now, they're young hustlers, and they're trying to hustle their way out of the streets. But in trying to hustle their way out of the streets, they begin to sell drugs in a neighborhood that they're not from. And so that inevitably gets them into problems. And so they get into some problems. One of them is hurt really, 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 really bad. And so the other one, AB, he hooks up with this street savvy lady named Layla, who's also a drug user. And they come up with a plan to get retaliation on the individuals that they think were involved, because there are several people inside of this neighborhood, the Highland Projects. There are several people inside of these projects that may be responsible for what happened to his best friend Steele. They don't know exactly who did it, because they made a lot of enemies by selling drugs in a neighborhood that they should not have been selling drugs in. So they attempt to systematically retaliate and figure out who did it, while at the same time acquiring enough money to make it out of the streets and never have to look back. But certain things start happening along the way. AB starts to wonder in his mind if Layla is really on his side, or is she playing him? Is she playing him for her own gain? Is she really working with the enemy and setting him up for failure? And so he starts to question her loyalty. Are they really a ride or die group? Or is Layla playing AB to see him wind up in an early grave and run off with all of the money that they are amassing throughout their criminal enterprise to seek revenge? So you have to read the suicide note to find out exactly what happened, who's who can you trust, who you can't trust, and why. This book is a banger, right? Now, Thicker Than Water, it's selling on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, and it's also selling on my website, www.therealbookworm.com. It's in paperback and ebook form. And Suicide Note, unfortunately, Barnes and Nobles hasn't picked it up yet, so it's only available on my website, therealbookworm.com, and it's only available on Amazon.com, but you can get it in paperback form or ebook form as well. If you guys like my videos, if you want to support what I have going on, I don't really ask for donations or anything like that. I'm not doing anything that requires donations, although I am active in my community. How you guys can show your support and be entertained at the same time, you can just purchase one of my books, or idealistically, a copy of all of my books, right? We got Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels. We got Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels. We got Thicker Than Water by Matthew Daniels. And we also have Big Game Hunting by Matthew Daniels. So you can order one or all to show your support. So I appreciate you guys watching. Leave me some comments, ask some questions. If I made any my as correct information, I'm all about being corrected. Leave a comment. If you interpreted something I read differently than how I interpreted it, let me know. I'm all about getting the information right. I don't have to be right all the time. I just like to get the correct information. I like to talk about these things, and I will be doing Play 2 sometime soon, and we'll go down through that. I really want to get to where they talk about the judgment scene, because I like breaking down what the Egyptians thought about what happens after death. So I hope I said something that you guys never heard before. If I said something that you did hear before, I hope I was able to give more context to it. So, excuse me. As always, this your brother, Matthew Daniels, a.k.a. Ampu, a.k.a. The Chosen Few, a.k.a. The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, world. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never. Damn, I gotta do that again. May your memory last forever, and may your memory never die. Hotel, peace. I'm out. You have to give me some water.